Why did humans evolve in Africa, of all places on Earth? What made this continent the cradle of humanity? Was it an accident, a miracle, or the inevitable outcome of millions of years of geological and climatic change? Imagine Earth as a gigantic laboratory. Each continent is like a workbench. On one, scorching deserts are tested. On another, endless jungles. On another, eternal ice. But one table contained the perfect mix of ingredients to slow cook something unique: Africa. There, in that crucible of extreme climates, natural catastrophes, and unexpected opportunities, our story began. A place where life was harsh enough to force our ancestors to adapt, yet fertile enough to spark creativity, cooperation, and eventually intelligence. But to understand how we became who we are, we must go far back, not thousands of years, not even millions. We must travel to the dawn of the primates, when we still shared the earth with the last dinosaurs. On this journey, we'll discover how small rodent-like creatures took the first steps toward becoming us. We'll see how continents moved like chess pieces, pushing species into new territories. And we'll understand how Africa's ever-changing landscapes shaped the first hominins and forged the modern human. The question is deep, and the answer is not simple. But if you follow me to the end, you will understand why Africa was the cradle of humanity, and what might have happened if we had been born elsewhere. Evolution needs a stage. And tens of millions of years ago, the planet was a mosaic of radically different stages. Europe and Asia offered colder, more variable climates. The Americas were isolated by vast oceans. Oceania was an exotic laboratory filled with unique but fragile species. Africa, in contrast, was a living, dynamic continent, a land of contrasts: dense jungles, open savannas, harsh deserts, fertile coasts. Every climate shift rewrote its landscapes. Forests turned into grasslands, rivers vanished into deserts, mountains erupted from the ground. It was a harsh environment, but perfect for evolutionary experimentation. Only the most adaptable survived. That's the key. Africa was never stable. It was a continent that constantly forced reinvention, and evolution loves challenges. The first primates. The earliest primates, our distant ancestors, appeared after the dinosaurs disappeared. Small animals, like squirrels, but with flexible ankles and wrists and sharper vision. Fossils found in North America and Asia show the first steps toward hands capable of making tools. But primates didn't stay in one place. They spread out. And here comes the paradox. The ancestors of monkeys and apes did not originate in Africa. They evolved in Asia. There, in ancient forests, the first anthropoids, the dawn monkeys, were born. So how did they get to Africa? And why did that movement change our destiny? The answer lies not in the animals, but in the land itself. The Earth moves, and so does evolution. About 20 million years ago, the continents shifted. Africa and Arabia collided with Eurasia. Seas receded, islands appeared, and finally a land bridge connected two worlds. It was like opening a door that had been closed for millions of years. Through that door, Asian anthropoids crossed into Africa. That migration was our first evolutionary lottery. Those who stayed in Asia died during a brutal glaciation. Those who reached Africa survived. Africa became their refuge and the perfect stage for the next step: the rise of the hominids. The first hints of humanity. Around 7 million years ago, Africa changed again. Where thick jungles once stood, mosaics of open savanna and scattered woods emerged. Trees no longer guaranteed safety, and many primates faced a choice: stay in the branches or explore the ground. In this setting appeared Sahelanthropus chadensis, one of the oldest candidates for hominid status. Its skull resembled a chimp's, but with a crucial detail: the foramen magnum, the hole where the spine meets the skull, was moved forward, suggesting a more upright posture. A million years later in Kenya came Ororin tuganensis, whose femurs show adaptations for upright walking. Then came Ardipithecus, half-climber, half walker. It walked upright on the ground, but still had a divergent big toe for gripping trees. Why stand up? Why become bipeds? The answer: efficiency. In open savannas, hominids needed to travel long distances for water, fruits, and prey. Walking on two legs used less energy than walking on four. It also freed the hands to carry food, hold infants, use sticks and stones. Bipedalism opened the door to everything that followed: technology, cooperation, culture, and it all began in Africa, the age of the Australopithecines. Between 4 and 2 million years ago, Africa was home to the Australopithecines. The most famous is Australopithecus afarensis, known as Lucy. Her skeleton shows clear adaptations for bipedal walking. Even more iconic, the Laetoli footprints in Tanzania, preserved in volcanic ash 3.6 million years ago. 3 individuals walking with heels and toes, just like us. They were not tool makers like their descendants, but they used sticks and bones. Their flexible diets, fruits, roots, small animals, helped them survive. Predators forced them to cooperate, protect each other, and form tighter groups. Africa was not a paradise. It was a harsh school, and that school forged the qualities that define us today: resilience, ingenuity, adaptability, the rise of the genus. Homo, around 2.5 million years ago, a new genus appeared: Homo, Homo habilis. Bigger brain, smaller body. The first stone tools. The Oldowan industry. Simple, but revolutionary. With better nutrition came bigger brains. With bigger brains came innovation. Homo erectus, taller, stronger, and the first to leave Africa, found in Georgia, Indonesia, China. But the earliest footprints remain in Africa. Erectus refined tools and likely controlled fire. Imagine the first campfire glowing in the African night, turning darkness into safety. Fire cooked food, but it also cooked ideas. Africa was the laboratory for all of this, the birth of Homo sapiens. Around 300,000 years ago in today's Morocco, the first Homo sapiens appeared. They had rounder skulls, broader foreheads, and brains capable of symbolic thought. They created art pigments, carvings, abstract designs over 100,000 years old. These were symbols, not tools. Humanity was beginning to dream. They also built social networks, real ones. Seashells found hundreds of kilometers inland, stones transported across regions. Early trade, alliances, culture all born in Africa. Genetically, Africa holds the greatest human diversity on Earth. This means humans lived there the longest, accumulating the most genetic variation. Those who left carried only a fraction of this diversity. Africa is the full library. The rest of the world has only borrowed a few books out of Africa versus multi-regionalism. For decades, 2 theories competed. 1. Out of Africa, sapiens evolved in Africa and replaced other hominins. 2. Multi-regional. Different regional populations evolved into sapiens simultaneously, with some gene flow. Genetic evidence strongly supports out of Africa. All non-Africans descend from a single group that left around 50,000 years ago. But there was mixing. With Neanderthals in Europe and Denisovans in Asia, evolution was not linear. It was a mosaic, but Africa was always the center. So why Africa? Geography, dynamic landscapes, tectonic shifts, rivers, mountains, climate, constant change forcing adaptation. Biology, varied resources that required ingenuity, tools, cooperation. Africa wasn't paradise. It was a school. A tough school that made us adaptable enough to survive anywhere. What if we evolved elsewhere? In Asia, maybe we'd be specialized forest dwellers. In Europe, perhaps robust like Neanderthals, but less widespread. In the Americas, we likely wouldn't exist at all. The continent was isolated too long. Humanity is Africa's daughter, not by chance, but because only Africa offered the perfect conditions to shape us. Final reflection. When you look in the mirror, remember this. Inside you lives an African story. Every cell, every heartbeat, carries the echo of that continent where humanity learned to exist. Now, I leave you with 2 questions. Do you think Africa was truly our only cradle? Or is there another hidden truth waiting to be discovered somewhere else? And if humanity had evolved in another continent, what kind of species would we be today? Tell me in the comments. I want to know what you think. If you love exploring the mysteries of our past, don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications. And if you want to keep traveling through history, join me in the next video where we explore how the first great human migration changed the destiny of the world. Thank you for staying until the end. If you're listening to this, it means that, just like me, you carry that same spark of curiosity that made us human.